Hey, CityCast listener, this holiday season, you could win a prize for doing simple things like ordering takeout from a local restaurant. It's all part of the DC Holiday Hunt from District Bridges. There are over $3,000 in exclusive prizes that you could win while supporting local businesses, completing fun missions, and crisscrossing DC, which, as you know, is one of CityCast listeners' favorite activities. And with no app required to play, it's easy and can be done at your own pace. Play now through January 5th for your chance to win. Just go to dcholidayhunt.org. Once again, that's dcholidayhunt.org. Happy playing. Today on CityCast DC, we are talking about DC's Amazon Prime deserts. We're also going to talk about some crime stories that the region ought to be thinking about and a big change at Dulles. I'm here with my CityCast colleagues, Julia Karen and Priyanka Tilve. Today is Friday, December 6th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Julia.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Priyanka.
Hello.
So, the DC Attorney General has filed suit, which I guess is his job, in this case against Amazon, for allegedly shortchanging some neighborhoods east of the river. And the idea is these people think it's the same as anyone else gets with Amazon Prime, but in fact, because of their location, they're given, a less speedy version of Prime. It's still free delivery, I guess, but not as fast. What's the charge? Why is this illegal and unfair?
All right. So first of all, do any of you have Amazon Prime and know how this works?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I don't.
Oh.
You monster.
I respect that, Julia. I feel like it has spoiled us, as a society, to expect things to arrive really, really fast. Though I guess not in the certain zip codes that we're talking about here. They have not been allowed to be spoiled.
Not in Anacostia, apparently. As you both know, basically, if you get Amazon Prime, the deal is it's free 2-day shipping. It's expedited. That's a perk. And that's why a lot of people get Prime in the first place. And so what's happening now is that Attorney General Brian Schwab is accusing Amazon basically of saying, you have these customers in these zip codes, 20019 and 20020. There's 48,000 of them. They are supposedly unknowingly not eligible for the 2-day shipping. The company decided to stop using its own trucks to deliver there, is what he alleges. Amazon calls this a delivery exclusion. So it's an area where it decides to use third-party delivery services like UPS and USPS. And those are slower than Amazon's. I get stuff from UPS all the time. It takes, 5 to 7 business days or whatever. And I'm not in a rush. But if you're really in a rush for something, you need diapers for your kid. You need a certain snack. You need insert part for your toilet and it broke and you can't get it at the hardware store. So you get it through Amazon. That stuff, it turns out, is really important that you get.
It's not
quickly.
even a matter of whether or not you need the thing really fast. The point is that people, when they pay for Prime, they are paying for a service that should allow them to get things fast, whether it's diapers for their kid or a book they really, really want to read. Essential or non-essential, they're paying for the service. And so essentially Brian Schwab is saying that these people were paying for the service, but then not getting it and also were not told. Am I right?
Right.
So I presume that if you live in a very distant rural place, the same thing applies, right? That they can't guarantee that you're going to get it from an Amazon truck because you're not that close to an Amazon warehouse. But in those people's cases, they presumably know. And the problem here is the alleged dishonesty.
That's correct. So Kelly Nantle, who is Amazon's spokesperson, said that the decision to basically make this a delivery exclusion area since 2022, she has said that there were specific and targeted attacks against drivers delivering Amazon packages in those zip codes. So she's saying, well, because the crime rate was so high, it's actually safer if USPS or UPS delivers the stuff as opposed to our drivers.
Because the Amazon trucks are branded, I imagine. And so then the people maybe were assuming that those products were more expensive or just, more worth stealing. Okay.
Yeah. And you might remember in 2022 and 2023, there was this big uptick in crime across the district, particularly petty crime stuff. So there is kind of a point there. Brian Schwab is saying, not quite.
I mean, obviously, he's saying they should have told them, which is the kind of fair marketing thing. But I'm curious if in any of his research for the suit, is he doubting that the rate of crime against Amazon personnel or against Amazon deliveries is higher in those zip codes?
It's unclear if he's alleging that, but one really interesting stat that Schwab notes is that in 2023, after this decision to make this an exclusionary area, only 25% of packages mailed to those zip codes, so that 20019 and that 20020 zip code, were delivered within 2 days of ordering, compared to more than 70% district-wide. Prior to the decision in 2021, Schwab says more than 72% of packages were delivered within 2 days to those two zip codes, in line with just under 70% district-wide that year. So something happened. Like, it's clear that, like, this got trimmed. And the question is, did customers know about it or did they not? And Schwab is basically saying Amazon didn't clearly say that this change was going to happen. He says it's discriminatory because you're basically saying, like, well, like, this is an area where you should be getting these deliveries and you're not. It also violates DC's consumer protection laws. And Amazon is saying, like, it's not discriminating, it's not deceptive, any of that.
How does it violate consumer protection laws?
Because allegedly they haven't disclosed the change. So if Amazon sent like a blast email or whatever and said, hey, like, we are making this an exclusionary zone, you can change your stuff for Prime or whatever because, you have to get it shipped via UPS or USPS, that would have been fine. Schwab is basically saying, because you didn't notify people, that's not allowed.
That's an interesting thing for the Attorney General of D.C., too, because this is, a relatively new position. It's come under, I think Congress is going to try to mess with that office because he's messed with some, right-wing sacred cows. But he has also, as I think his predecessor did, too, been fairly consistent about, taking part in these big, like, consumer actions against big tech companies and allegedly, monopolistic consumer-facing brands, which is, a way of getting attention and, a kind of, I don't think anyone's going to be against this. Like, Amazon, whether or not it's logical for them to use someone else to deliver in neighborhoods where they perceive crime, you got to level with your customers who are paying you. So this is not going to, it's a very good move for an ambitious politician.
Oh, absolutely, it's a good move if you're ambitious. Now, Attorney General Brian Schwab, what he's asking for is basically restitution and damages. He wants that to be decided by a judge during a case. I imagine what will happen is this will probably end in a settlement of some undisclosed amount of money to people. But, like, I don't know, how much does a Prime membership cost, guys? Like $15 a month?
Thereabouts. I think people who have been quote unquote swindled say they want refunds. So I guess we'll see if they get refunds for the last 2 years of paying for Prime and not getting Prime.
Julia, has Amazon said what they're going to do?
Amazon has basically said, we're going to fight this. Like, this isn't true. I imagine what'll happen, as happens in, like, most of these kind of class action-y type things where, it's people are saying, hey, we're being discriminated against and or something bad has happened. I imagine that this is going to end in a settlement, is my best guess. Most of these things do. But it will be interesting to see how this plays out over the next couple of months. And courts are slow. So it's possible that, like, court comes out over Christmas and says, hey, those 20019 and 20020 zip codes, they didn't get their Christmas gifts in that 2-day window. Get it together.
Let's be real, lawsuits are not fun. But with Christopher Nace and the trial lawyers at Paulson and Nace, at least they're a little easier. Paulson and Nace is a DC law firm in every sense of the word. It was founded here in 1979. Partner Chris Nace is a local who cares deeply about the DC community, even serving on the board of the local branch of the Living Classrooms Foundation in his free time. Nace and his associates Samantha Peters, John Reese, and Maya Perry handle medical malpractice, wrongful death, and other complex injury cases. And they don't just settle every case. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. Paulson and Nace has even been recognized as one of Best Lawyers' best law firms. So if you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Paulson and Nace for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.paulsonandnace.com or call 202-463-1999.
Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you're a magic maker like me, the person in your crew responsible for the parties and the menus and keeping the whole squad on theme and on time, the holidays can be so much fun, but they can also kind of run you down. Therapy can be a great way to bring yourself some comfort. Maybe you want to learn how to set some boundaries with your friends and family this time of year, or maybe you're working on coping skills for when you get overwhelmed. Therapy can empower you to be the best version of yourself in any situation. If you're thinking of making a change, BetterHelp wants to be there for you. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/CityCast today to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/CityCast.
All right, so speaking of things going to court, we all see sort of the occasional wild crime story that may be a horrific tragedy for the people involved, but is the kind of thing that if we still had water coolers, coworkers would talk about them around these water coolers. And one of the things, maybe it was just a 2024 thing because of the election and everything, but I feel like a lot of people just sort of missed these entirely. So we're here to help. Or specifically Priyanka's here to help. You've been following a bunch of these crazy crime capers. So let's be really bloodless about it because they are horrible stories for a lot of people. What are they? What's been happening that people should know about? Let's give them the cheat sheet.
Yeah, we needed to round these up because there have been so many weird ones over the last month or so that we couldn't pick one. So here you go. Here's a quick roundup. One of the ones this week was that burglars with sledgehammers attacked 18 stores in DC around Wisconsin Ave between Georgetown and Tenleytown. So it was a 3-mile stretch. They stole a bunch of cash. They broke a bunch of equipment. They shattered glass. They were targeting bakeries, cafes, a pizzeria, a Greek and a Peruvian restaurant.
Did they do this at night, when these places were closed?
Yeah, this happened Sunday night into really early Monday morning. So it was darkness, but it's right at the start of holiday shopping season. So that really sucks for the stores, and then also just for cafes and pizzerias, places where people are eating. I feel like this is their last busy period before DC kind of becomes a ghost town over the holidays. And obviously they're not going to be getting all that much business while they try to pick up all the glass. But I think the part of this that really stood out to me was the sledgehammers. If
we had a tabloid, that would be what they'd call them. The sledgehammer bandits.
Sledgehammer slammers, sledgehammer stealers,
It truly sounds very Home Alone-esque, which, again, it is the time of year for that.
Not to make light of the businesses who are small margin businesses that have lost a lot of money, but in a city that's battled with gun violence as an epidemic, it's almost refreshing to see people use a different sort of weapon.
That's true. I suppose that's a small silver lining.
Schaefer is here with your silver linings.
Thank you for that. And then speaking of robberies, also on Monday morning, slightly later, now we're into daylight, between 6 a.m. and 7:45 a.m., there were 7 different attacks in the Capitol Hill area between Union Station and RFK. Police say a group of up to 3 armed men held up about a dozen people. Again, that's less than 2 hours, between 6 a.m. and 7:45 a.m. One of the people who was robbed was a congressional staffer. He was robbed in Stanton Park, which is a really beautiful park in Capitol Hill East area.
Well, I'm glad our burglars appreciate beauty.
Absolutely. They pick the scenic spots, But yeah, that's prime commute time. And so I'm flabbergasted by the amount that they were able to do, the sheer volume of robberies over also a fairly wide range in such a short amount of time.
And this Hill staffer is a staffer for a congressional Republican who has inevitably attributed this all to DC's coddling of criminals and otherwise un-Texan approach to crime, although I think crime's pretty high in Texas. But if I was the city, I might send out some well-connected cops or something and try to slip some money to muggers and say, please stay away from the Hill. Because when you jump a Hill staffer, that brings this whole other thing into it with home rule and autonomy. And I actually I don't think the congressional approaches to crime in DC are going to be any better in terms of like keeping you safe from being jumped and getting the jumpers put away than the DC approach has been. I think those tend to be a lot of bluster and not a whole lot of solution. But, whenever that happens in DC, which has lately there's been a few very high profile incidents, it has very bad effects for DC as well as for the individuals who are traumatized.
Yeah, absolutely. This does not help us as DC citizens fight Trump's perception of the city as being like a crime-ridden cesspool. And like that's the concern, right? That he's going to come into office in January and alongside a fully red Congress and try to interfere in our local affairs. And they have all of the incentive if their staffers are getting jumped.
One crime that I suspect is less likely to hit Republican political operatives is the Post reported on this. There has been a slew of thefts of compost buckets.
Bizarre. 4,000 buckets have been stolen. There were only 9,000 to begin with in this compost pilot program.
Why? Like, I don't know if you guys compost like I do, but like, these are not like sexy buckets. They smell. They're kind of gross.
Wait, can you do something else with them besides compost?
I suppose you could do anything that you can do with a bucket. Like, I don't know, you've got a leak, you can collect water. It looks like just a regular bucket. It's just a white bucket that says food waste on it and says Government of District of Columbia. It's really not a very sexy bucket. The Post article was actually really cute because it says like, they're not beautiful or cool or trendy. They're buckets.
What would the tabloid headline be for these guys? Whoever's behind this. The compost caper.
Ooh, I like that.
Compost connivers.
We're all about alliteration. We're so lame.
That's what tabloids do. They see this stuff and it's like, you got to match it a little bit, But I feel like conniving is exactly what they're doing. Because like, this is not a sexy topic at all. Like, composting is like, you literally get your food scraps in a bucket. You give them to DC government and they, turn it into mulch and stuff. And then supposedly it helps the earth and gets stuff out of, trash cans, which is kind of nice. But like, there's nothing that is like appealing about like lugging old, literally rotting and molding food in a bucket.
We're going to get angry calls from people who say composting is a beautiful act for the environment.
It is a beautiful act, but like, would you rob a compost bucket over it? I'm asking seriously. Would you do that?
I imagine it's someone who's like anti-composting trying to mess with the pilot program, being like, I think composting is dumb and I don't think the city should do it and I'm going to make it hard for them or something like that.
All right, so a little bit more grim. A hitman was hired to kill someone's wife, but here's the fun part. The someone who did the hiring, allegedly, was in fact behind bars when he did this.
And it was the husband.
Whoa!
Yeah. So this man named Lionel Carter, he's 34 years old. He's already in jail serving a 33-year prison term for murdering someone in 2014. And then on Monday, he was charged with hiring someone to shoot and kill his wife 10 months ago because she was planning to leave him, essentially. His wife, her name is Egypt Carter, or her name was Egypt Carter. She's 23 years old. Obviously any murder is sad, but she's very young, which is heartbreaking. But yeah, she was found dead at the wheel of her Toyota Corolla. Her seatbelt was on, the car was still running and in drive, and there were 5 bullet casings near the car.
Has the alleged killer been arrested as well as the alleged hirer of the killer?
The hirer was already behind bars. He was indicted alongside 3 other men. The co-defendants are charged with aggravated murder and using a firearm to commit a felony. This group of 3 men are accused of, I guess, carrying out the killing for hire.
There was one where the arrests happened earlier this year, but the trial concluded right before the election, which is going to be ripped from the headlines TV show any second now, I'm sure. The Kink site killings.
Oh my God.
Kink site killings. Okay, so this story, straight out of a podcast, movie, show. I'm sure it'll be all of the above. Basically, there was this Brazilian au pair. She was hired by the Banfields family in Virginia in late 2021. By August of the following year, she was having an affair with the father in the family. That's Brendan Banfield. And I guess they were just so in love that they needed to be together and they couldn't wait for a divorce or something. I don't really know what the rationale was here, but they decided to start plotting to kill the wife, the mother in the family. Then the way that they went about it is also really strange. Brendan Banfield allegedly created a profile for his wife on a social networking website that's like all about kinks, like sexual fetishes and stuff. And they matched her with this man named Ryan. And then they like catfished him, I guess, by having the au pair pretend to be the wife in conversations and voice calls with Ryan. He agreed to come over to the house. And then once he was at the house for what he thought was a consensual encounter, the dad, Brendan Banfield, killed the quote unquote intruder, Ryan, and then also killed his wife and then tried to frame the whole incident on the man. So basically they were like, they called this guy Ryan to the house, then they make it look like Ryan killed the wife, but the forensics in the case were very, very obvious, and it was clear that Brendan had been the one to do the killing.
It's an ingenious plot. However did the detectives crack it?
Honestly, it must have been a really weird one for them to figure out. Like, I really do want the TV show version of this.
So you show up and there's like the dead intruder and the dead wife, and the husband says, well, I came home, he had just killed my wife and I killed him. I'm a bereaved spouse. And anyone who's seen a police procedural knows that when that is all stipulated in the first 5 minutes, there's going to be a twist, people.
Exactly.
It's always the husband or the boyfriend or the spouse. We're not being gender specific here, but...
But hey, listen, just for context, homicides in DC are way, 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 way down, just so everyone knows. So we're talking about sensationalist crime. But in fact, your odds of being a victim of violent crime are significantly less than they would have been a year or two ago.
Truly.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Way to eat a tea. You're listening to an ad for PC Game Pass. Want new games on day one like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? How about living out your Sims life with EA Play? We're talking high-quality PC games all for one low monthly price. We got you. Learn more at xbox.com/PC Game Pass or click the banner. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle available December 9th, 2024. Game catalog varies by region and over time. Okay, that's the ad. You can go back to doing whatever you were doing now.
All right, so there's a few things happening in the next few months that may make CityCast listeners and others want to flee town, in addition to all these sensational crimes going on. And you will be in luck soon enough because United Airlines, remember them? They are building a new terminal at Dulles. It's going to give them a bunch of new gates. It will mean more flights to like Kansas City and stuff, but also it coincides with launching of a bunch of new international routes from Dulles. There's one to Dakar in Senegal. There's one to Nice in France and to Venice. The second of those will be summer routes starting next summer. And, you know, I love a good air travel trend, but, you know, it used to be that in most countries you like flew from your smaller city to the biggest city and then flew from that, you know, to the biggest city in whatever country you're visiting and then flew again to whatever smaller city you want to go to. There's now these planes that are sort of built for doing sort of second tier city to second tier city, like Washington to Nice. You know, no changing at JFK necessary anymore, no changing at Paris necessary anymore. And that's really good for cities like Washington. We've always sort of punched above our weight in terms of raw numbers because the government's here and because it's, you know, as a result, a lot of international travel from here. But this will help DC get flights to sort of more specifically vacation destinations further away. Like there's not a lot of business that gets done in Nice, but, you know, I know Priyanka always talks about wanting to go to the Riviera one year, and this could be your year.
You joke, but I actually do.
The only business I want to have in Nice is sitting on a pool deck, drinking a spritz or like a nice glass of wine and just sunning myself. That is the business trip I want to Nice.
Next summer you can go.
And if you get nice enough tickets, you won't even need the spritz in Nice because you'll have been able to drink so much at the 40,000 square foot airport lounge that United's going to build as part of their expansion at Dulles.
Yeah, that's kind of wild that, like, if you're really balling out, it's just like, yes, here is this entire concourse and fancy area just for you. I'm not like a frequent enough flyer to get that stuff. Are you guys?
Good God, no.
I mean, I don't fly United enough, but maybe I will now.
Well, I think that's the other thing is that as a business matter, so much of the competition is about the rather small percentage of flyers who are frequent flyers and as a result habitués of airport lounges and so on. And those are the ones who pay full freight and the airlines want them. I don't think they particularly care about any of us, I'm sorry to say. Where would you like to see a flight from DC to?
I would like a flight directly to Tokyo.
Ooh, God, but you're spending so much time in that plane. It's like 20 hours. It's a whole day.
You pass out and then you're there.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, make it happen, United.
Let's go.
Awesome to see you guys.
Yep, see ya.
Same. Thank you.
And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Priyanka Tilve, Julia Karen, and Ash Durbin. Newsletter editors Kayla Cote-Semmerman and Natalia Aldana wrote our fabulous newsletter, Hey DC, this week. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan. If you enjoyed the show, please consider being a member. Just go to membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.